Welcome to the Making of Me podcast, where we explore the defining moments that shape extraordinary people into who they have become. Today's guest is David Sauers, co-founder and CEO of Royal Restrooms, the gold standards in luxury portable restaurant rentals, with over 50 franchise locations across the country. He's also the founder of Pitch Perfect TV, Havana Bar Cats, Transit Trailer, and Kroger Bush Compa, a man who has built an entire universe of business by seeing opportunity where most people see nothing looking at. But underneath all of this he's a man with something to prove. A story about what that driven can build when you let others' opinion of you become your ceiling. David, it's really a honor and a pleasure having you on the show.
I am great this morning. I appreciate you having me on. I'm excited to be here and see where the show takes us today.
Yeah, thank you so much, David. So, David, before the business, before the Royal Restaurant, and before any of it, who were you growing up, and what was the environment that first shaped how you saw yourself and what you believe you were capable of?
Oh, that's a great question. I believe everybody has their own childhood, and they turn out to be whoever they are by what that shapes. Yeah. No matter the circumstances, you still have choices and you still have options, and it's how you decide to make those choices and turn that into a reality is how you want to live the rest of your life. And I did not grow up a privileged person. We were not poor, but I mean, there was 5 of us that lived in a 2-bedroom apartment. So it's not like we lived a life of luxury, but I wanted more. I wanted to have more like my friends. So I started working at an early age. I always looked for some kind of, I don't want to say a side hustle, but I always looked for some kind of way that I could make a little bit more money and do something just to better myself. And I started looking at those opportunities at a very early age by how can I improve upon something that is already there? Or if I have a bad experience with something, how can I make it better? And from that early onset, I tried to fix things. I tried to change things to make them better. How many of us as kids take things apart and then try to put it together? How many of us try to build forts or Legos or you name it? That creativity is in every one of us. It's just a matter of how much you decide to lean into it and trust yourself.
Yeah, amazing having side hustles along, owing to the fact that you don't just want to be the norm, or you want more. That was really amazing. So you said that the challenge that shaped you the most was the need to prove you were more than others thought of you and more than you thought of yourself. That is a two-sided battle. Which one was harder to fight, the outside voice or the one inside of your head?
It's always the inside voice. It's always the inside voice, because the inside voice is the one that gives you self-doubt, but it also is the one that gives you strength. The outside voices, if you allow that to get into it, it will shape your inside voice. But, for the most part, everybody has got an opinion. It doesn't matter if it's right or wrong, good or bad, there's an opinion. And so much of society, you can shape whichever viewpoint that you want. You can find and pick a side to make it a reality if you so choose. But the internal is what I think most people struggle with, especially with, depression, self-doubt. That's a difficult thing to overcome. I think the best way to do that, the way that I try to do that, and even I suffer from it, is I try to look at the positives in a bad situation. And I go to my wife. She is very much like this. It's like if we got into a car accident, it's, oh, woe is me, the car value lost, we're going to be down, all this stuff. And she's like, oh, but nobody was hurt. You're not in the hospital. You didn't die. And so when you start to look at things like that from a gratitude position and not such a downer, all of a sudden getting in the car accident is not that big of a deal.
Yeah, amazing. This is really lovely, especially when you make reference to the fact that everybody has an opinion of, what they just want to think of, and staying clue to what the inner voice is. It's of a better choice than actually more like just subscribing to what everybody's opinions get to be, being that if you subscribe to it as much every now and then, at the time your introspection in terms of your inner voice become the pattern of those particular noises. Yeah, this is really amazing. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, it's one of those things that, I mean, self-pity. We all kind of have that self-pity. I get self-pity and I have to look at myself and I'm like, why? Like,
Yeah.
you have done so much. Like, why do you have this self-pity feel? Like, you have done so much. You have provided for your children. You have people that love you. Where does this come from? And it's kind of an anomaly.
Yeah, amazing.
But we all should.
Yeah, so true. So at some point, the need to prove yourself stopped being a want and started being a foil. When did that shift happen, and what made the difference between letting it defeat you or letting it drive you?
Well, I made it drive me. I think from an early age, I had this need to prove myself as more. And maybe that was to get a little more respect from my peers, because I think I felt like they kind of looked down on me just a little bit because, we didn't belong to the golf club, or we didn't, I didn't have all the nicest clothes, and, I had one pair of shoes, and I didn't get as big of a Christmas or something along those lines. But really, it was also my parents. I was the oldest of three, and I believe I always felt like my parents took my brother and sister a little more above me. So I always felt like I needed to make them proud or prove to them that I was good enough for some reason. And it wasn't till later on that my dad's like, well, we didn't worry about you. We worried about your brother and sister. We thought that you could, you were pretty independent and determined that we didn't want to mess with that. But I had always had that feeling that I needed to, hey, I need to make sure that they're proud of me. I need to make sure that, I want to hear from them that they're proud of me. So I kept pushing the envelope for that.
Yeah, amazing. I think this is really lovely. I think this speaks another volume to the fact that as parents, you need to actually more like sometimes being able to voice what you feel about your children. That very way it increases their self-confidence and increase what they perceive. Other than you, from your own standpoint, we're just trying to prove a point. Here was dad and mom saying that, which he's enough. He's actually doing well and he could pretty do well on his own. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. So you co-founded Royal Restroom in 2004. It was a really portable restroom company. That is not just obvious part for someone trying to build something significant. What made you see the potential in an industry most people will never take seriously?
That's a great question. And it goes back to those early stages of trying to find a better opportunity or find, a solution to something that I thought was a problem. And that all stemmed from an experience I had in a porta potty. In those plastic porta potties, I took my child who was potty training to one of those, and we had a horrible experience. She went in, she touched everything. I got freaked out. She's looking at stuff in the, she called it a bucket. Like, why am I going in a bucket? I'm holding her above the toilet seat because I don't want her to touch anything. And she pees all over me. And I walked out. There's nowhere to wash your hands. There's not much of cleanup. And it's like, man, I know these are, necessary. My goodness. Like, this is kind of ridiculous. We're in the 21st century, and yet we're still going to the bathroom like we were 2,000 years ago. This is it's obsolete, but it's one of those things that nobody wanted to necessarily deal with because they view it as a dirty job or a nasty job. It's kind of like, it's a critical part of an infrastructure. What we did and what Robert and I did, my business partner, was we stopped at somewhat of an aspect of an event that was sometimes not a very good experience. We created a way around that to take that off of the event planner's hand, to create a better environment, to create a more sanitized environment, but to also create a more normal, proper way of going to the bathroom at an outdoor event.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. You getting to see the needs or into the discomfort it costs you, and you now seeing a better means of actually more like, yeah, doing better compared to what the old setting was. That was really, really amazing. So building national recognized franchise with over 50 locations does not happen without a real adversity along the way. What were some of the moments where it almost did not work, and what kept you going?
Those would take hours. We could go on and on. But really, one of the most critical things that happened with us is, we got stopped by the government. They wanted kind of a piece of the pie, if you like to
Yeah,
say. They wanted to make sure that this was not some kind of a scheme that you could literally, that this could be a true business. And the attorney generals out of Maryland stopped us for a little while. It gave us a cease and desist order on selling opportunities. And we had to become a franchise location with an FDD, a federal document disclosure, and more of a proven track record. That was probably our biggest hurdle and our also largest momentum kill in our business, because after that, there were a lot of copycats that popped up. And even today, it's a relatively easy business to start or get into. You see it all the time all over TikTok or, social media. Oh, buy a restroom trailer, you can make $20,000 a month. That doesn't happen. That really doesn't happen. This is a serious business. You can't take it for granted like that. What most people don't know is, you have a spill somewhere. A lot of times that's a $10,000 fine. There are issues that people deal with on a daily basis with this business, and it's a critical point that you have people that are knowledgeable and that are trained and this is their professional industry. This is not some kind of side
yeah.
hustle. I mean, you wouldn't go to get your, have surgery by somebody that's using Facebook or Instagram to, you know, fix yourself. This is one of those things that look at the history and make sure that they understand the business. So today, that's one of the things that we're dealing with, that we're struggling with, are the people who don't take this seriously, that are doing it on a small scale, that are impacting a much larger business. But, that's okay, because the more awareness creates more
Yeah,
opportunity and more business.
yeah,
So it is good and bad for the industry.
yeah, amazing. I think they just speak volumes. So a whole lot of person does not know the work is being required. So actually, I'm like, I'll do it standardly. Yeah, just the way you said, as much as it sound as though there's no opportunity, I think it's not hiding the fact that those who are professional at it, they'll be easily noticeable, owing to their whole lot of fake around. And yeah, it's amazing. And thank you for what you're doing. So you have built multiple business also across completely different industries. So events, sanitation, entertainment, hospitality, mobile business, outdoor adventure. What does that say about your mind, or how your mind work, and what you are actually chasing?
Well, all of them are actually
Mm,
interconnected. Some of my smaller businesses are actually really feeder companies to Royal Restrooms. Hopefully, I will build up enough steam with that it will garner more attention to be swallowed up by Royal Restrooms. So, like Savannah Bar Carts, it is not a bar service. It is just a bar facility. It is to enhance that experience.
mm,
So if you've got an outdoor wedding, you're renting a restroom trailer, you're probably going to have an outdoor bar. Consequently, the TVs, pitch perfect TVs. If we have the Kentucky Derby coming up, there are Kentucky Derby parties. Well, you can't have a Kentucky Derby party without watching it on the big screen, and you're going to do it outside. Those things kind of start to go hand in hand. And it's more about the experience. I don't necessarily like to say that we're just in the portable sanitation industry. We are more in the professional events industry. We're about providing service. And these side businesses that I'm trying to launch, that I'm testing, that I'm learning about, that I am perfecting, will become a much larger business in time, I hope. If not, they don't, but I tried, I learned, and you know, If I don't make it, somebody else will make it. They'll do it better.
Yeah, amazing.
And that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, each and every one of them is connected towards more like making things easier, especially when it comes to the album. Yeah, amazing. Thank you for what you're doing. So you appear on Blocks TV and being future and legacy maker in Rodi Mawa. What does it mean to you personally? And personally to have a story told at the level, especially for the version of you that once doubted whether he was enough.
Well, I think it's a unique experience. I don't necessarily look at how it will garner necessarily more attention, but it was more about the personal experience that I saw. I got to test myself. I got to see how nervous I was. I got to better myself. Even if I didn't do the greatest job on any of those, the Blocks was more of a business reality show. I can learn from that experience and hone my skills, learn to be a better speaker. That's one of the reasons I'm going on the podcast, like with you. I am learning how to express myself and not so much just give the perfect right answer.
Yeah.
So many people try to perfect that, and you just kind of have to allow your mind to speak freely.
Amazing, amazing. This is really lovely. So I was seeing each and every of those particular platform towards a particular goal, of learning how to kind of put your thoughts to words and being able to kind of express it. Yeah, amazing, amazing. So you mentor aspiring business owners and franchise partner. What is the advice you find yourself giving most often? The things people need to hear that they are usually not ready to receive.
Oh, well, there are a lot of those, and it depends on usually what stage in business they're at. Usually for young entrepreneurs, they are trying so hard to make everything perfect rather than launch. I hear all the time, I thought about this business 3 years ago, or I've been wanting to do this for 10 years. Just do it. Just start it. You start the process, you will figure it out. By simply putting it out there, the world has this way of almost being like a magnet to you. It brings the ideas to you. It brings the thoughts. It brings what you're looking for front and center to you. For your older entrepreneurs is, complacency. They get comfortable. All of a sudden they don't want to lose anything. They're trying to hold on to it rather than being innovative and looking at change. When they were younger, they didn't have anything to lose. So they were 150%. They were taking chances. They were making things better. They were trying new things. When you're older, you get scared of things being taken away from you. So all of a sudden your risks slow down. Your tendencies to improve things don't change. You have to change with the time. You have to stay ahead of it. Just because you're number one today does not mean that you're going to be number one tomorrow. And just because this is the newest trend does not mean that you don't need to try it, that this is something that's always worked for you. You go back and you look, there are hundreds and hundreds of businesses that have fallen off because they thought that, they were the best and they didn't need to change. Why do we keep coming out with new Apple phones?
Yeah.
Better and better. They keep making different TVs. They keep making new cars. They keep, everything keeps getting better. So you have to continue to move with it, not just in a product space, but from a professional service space, from an internet space, from a learning point. You have to stay in a constant state of learning.
Yeah, amazing. You have to stay in a constant space of learning. Yeah, what work is today, not definitely work. And even if you are more like getting it right now in terms of being spearhead of your own particular industries, you still have to learn more. Being that, change happen and some things goes by. And amazing. This has really been lovely. So, lastly, what legacy do you hope your work leave? Not just in business, but for the people who look at you early and did not see what you saw in yourself.
From a legacy standpoint, I am not so concerned about from a business standpoint. I would like for my children to look back at me and be proud of me. I would like them to remember the good things that I did and, the kindness that their mother and I were, in hopes that they would pass down and learn from us, learn from our mistakes, but also pick up the traits that were good. But mostly, I would like my children to be proud to be my children.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. This is really lovely, more like the legacy being taken, the fact that yes, you want your children to get to see what you have done and be very, very proud. And yeah, this is really, really amazing. And thank you so much, David. Also, David, to my audience who love to reach out, either those aspiring for to franchisees and business partners, those who would love to reach out either for more content or to connect with you for coaching sections. How can they reach out to you and where's the best platform?
Yeah, absolutely. So for franchising with Royal Restrooms, you can just go to our website at royalrestrooms.com. For a business connection, I'm on LinkedIn under David Sauers. And if you do want some coaching, I am under davidsauers.com. I'd love to connect with anybody and help anybody. That is really one of the things that brings me joy right now in my life. I like seeing people succeed and following their dreams, and I enjoy hearing about those. So I'm excited for where I am in my life right now and what the future holds.
Yeah, thank you so much, David. Thank you for such entertaining, honest, and genuine inspiring conversation. Your journey reminds us that being underestimated, even by yourself, does not have to be the end of the stories. It can be the beginning of something remarkable, from luxury restroom to overland adventure and a franchise empire built from scratch. Your story is a proof that when you refuse to accept others' people limits of your own, there is almost no ceiling on what you can build. Yeah, it has really been a pleasure and honor. Have you on the show, Davis.
Wonderful. Thank you so much again.